Anime doesn't tend to have the best track record when it comes to depicting adults. Don't get me wrong, morally gray grown-ups of anime are some of the most beloved. But when you consider that most of the well-known adult characters are degenerate broke con men, deadbeat baby daddies, or some version of those traits, it's no surprise that depictions of adult women are often just as questionable. But the complexities of depicting adult women and their stories range across demographics, and though there are plenty of questionable versions of them, there's also a diverse array of women that represent realistic and interesting depictions of femininity, adulthood, and pure badassery. From shy young women to bodacious femme fatales, to villains you hate to love, and even downright perverts, I think it's obvious we need to talk about adult women in anime. The first and arguably the most popular is the trope of the femme fatale. There's something about a dangerous woman that just makes an impression in anime spaces. I think Spike Spiegel speaks for many a down bad anime fan when he said,
"I love the kind of woman that can kick my ass."
On top of that, make them stacked, have them curse like a sailor, and give them an iron liver that can process an ocean of alcohol, and you have the ideal adult woman to thirst after, at least. Just make sure not to give her too much depth and make her one weakness the most trash man in the universe, and you've got the perfect formula for the femme fatale. When you think of the perfect poster figure for mature women in anime, they are usually characters like Faye Valentine, who is a scantily clad gambling addict that was created from a series of unfortunate events, like waking up from cryogenic slumber decades into the future and being hustled by the worst con man in the universe. Or Revy from Black Lagoon, a crude smoking pirate who is quick to shoot when things don't go her way. Or assassin mommy Yor Forager, who kills people for a living, sucks at wifely duties, and has to be drunk in order to be confident in herself, despite the fact that her job is to literally kill people. She should be super confident. She murders people for a living. Femme fatales come in all shapes and sizes. For example, if you like cold-hearted anime women who are also genius futuristic detectives solving crimes, this video sponsor has a heroine just for you in their series, Your Forma. Your Forma is a futuristic detective series in which the characters dive into people's minds in order to solve mysteries. Led by the cold and calculated Echika, a genius detective diver who damages every partner she's paired with, and her unlikely new partner, Harold, an AI robot or amicus who is way too flirtatious and human-like for his own good, but is the only one capable of keeping up with Echika's abilities. The two have to uncover the murder of an amicus whose body is left in pieces at a crime scene, a scene in which the animation studio actually recreated in real life in Japan and created a cryptic social media post to get real fans involved in the mystery that goes on in the show. For fans of series like ID Invaded, Psycho-Pass, or Ghost in the Shell, Your Forma might be your new favorite series. And episode 3 is when things start to get really interesting. The best part about Your Forma though is that it's completely free to watch on Samsung TV Plus, which you can access on any Samsung device or on the Android app. So get to watching and let's get back to women you hate to love in anime. Can't forget Michiko Melandro, the violent, rude, insanely attractive fugitive that is hopelessly in love with the worst man to ever exist. This also fits literally any of the adult women in Full Metal Alchemist or Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood, except give them, realistic motivations for the morally gray decisions they end up making. I'm looking at you, Olivia Armstrong. Look, I know it sounds like I'm griping over the options of women in anime, because I am, but to be honest, I truly do love a lot of these characters. Some are written better than others, of course, but for the most part, a lot of them are just fun to watch. It's nice to not have to think too deeply about an interesting, bombastic character. I'm also a fan of women committing wrongs while wearing stylish, sultry outfits and giving the men in their life hell. Because who doesn't have a fantasy of living life uncontained while also looking fine as hell? But I do wish we got something more from these femme fatales. Maybe a little bit more of a villain arc, something a little deeper. Oh wait, we do. We do have women villains. Let's talk about them. Though technically also a femme fatale because they tend to be attractive and violent villainesses, not to confuse them with the isekai trope of the same name, but the villainesses I'm talking about are in a league of their own. Whether it's the literal personification of fornication, like Full Metal Alchemist Lust, or the embodiment of control, manipulation, and abuse, who manipulates the young and vulnerable protagonist to do her bidding, like Makima from Chainsaw Man, or the traumatized and abused Akito from Fruits Basket, who goes on to abuse and manipulate every single person in their family. There's also mother figures who secretly feed their children to demons, like Isabelle from The Promised Neverland, or the severely underappreciated, mind-bending destruction of Ayamagase from the anime Babylon. Not to mention the heart-wrenching backstory of Dandadan's acrobatic Silky that broke people's hearts in a single episode, when we discovered how she became a demon. There is something unsettling, devious, and often incredible about these villains that can sometimes provide more depth than we get with Femme Fatales. Don't get me wrong, some of these characters can also be one-dimensional in ways that validate misogyny. Malty from Rising of Shield Hero, whose only evil attribute is literally just being a bitch. Did she do something deplorable? Hell yeah. But also, like, it's obvious that she's kind of like this one-dimensional character that men love to shit on because it's just a way to get out the fact that men love to shit on women who wrong them over and over and over again, to the point where it's like, okay, we get it. But I think there are a certain set of characteristics that make villainesses special, such as flipping the stereotypes that women are unsuspecting and demure on its head by revealing that they are literal terrors, giving them powers or status that actually pose a threat not only to the main character but to their world, and giving them a personal vendetta or mission that drives every major action they take. Sometimes having to do with their status in the world as a woman and how absolutely soul-crushing that can be at times. But, unfortunately, there is a certain set of adult women characters that surpass the villain arc and go straight into committing crimes that make even villains look tame in comparison. The only thing worse than a villain, in my opinion, is a pervert. Oftentimes, villains can be both. I don't know what it is with anime and manga and depicting perverted older women, but it's a problem. We need to talk about it. Especially when men who are depicted as perverts look like this, but women who are depicted as perverts or, assaulters or terrible human beings tend to look like this. There are cases where women are using young men solely for their own personal gain and not because they are necessarily attracted to them, but that doesn't make how they treat the younger characters in their lives any less fucked up. Just like every other subset of women that we've discussed so far, these women are also made for escapism. And I get that the way that they look and the wild things they do are all to appeal to a certain kind of fantasy. Still, it's freaking weird to me, I'm not even gonna lie. Treating women giving young boys special attention as anything but harassment or possible SA leads to a whole lot of issues for young men that are overlooked because people romanticize the dynamic way, way, way too much. Just look at the wrecked emotional states of characters like Denji from Chainsaw Man, Shinji from Neon Genesis Evangelion, or Poon Poon from Goodnight Poon Poon, all of which, to varying degrees of success in my opinion, tackle topics of abuse in this dynamic where there's an older woman emotionally or sexually manipulating them. And I kind of want to put the women of Dandadan in their own separate perverted space, which sounds terrible, but let me explain before y'all come for me in the comments. Turbo Granny literally eats Okarun's dong. That is a major plot point in the story. And Seiko has chased Okarun around asking him to see his privates. But the entirety of Dandadan is also built around jokes, so it's not surprising that the older women of the series also participate in this. Turbo Granny and Seiko also fit in the next subset of adult women, annoyingly wise old women who don't always look their age. These women are a staple in shonen series particularly, and they are often the only notable adult women in the demographic. They are hard-ass but loving in their own way, like Mentors Genkai from Yu Yu Hakusho or Panako from Fullmetal Alchemist. They also tend to be women who are mentors to the characters and tend not to be sexualized, but still in many cases are because they don't look their age, like Seiko from Dandadan or Tsunade from Naruto, who looks her age but is still kind of given the MILF aesthetic, or is an older woman in a younger woman's body, like Bisky from Hunter x Hunter. And no, we're not diving into lolis in this video because I literally cannot. That's just, it needs its own dive. Just know that the next time you see a lovable anime granny, she could turn out to be an overpowered bombshell at any moment. Thanks, anime. When exploring the array of these women characters, it is clear there is a formula that delineates them. C, to make them interesting to certain members of the XY chromosome, women like the ones I mentioned are often exaggerated in more ways than one. This doesn't necessarily mean that all women in anime and manga are necessarily bad or only sexualized, though plenty of them are, we can't deny that. But we can also acknowledge that plenty of these women characters are loved across genders and audiences that love to watch and read them, including by me. This mixed bag of women that you love to hate or hate to love are well known because they are in popular series. What about the women characters in anime manga that you don't know, but you should? In fact, there's a subset of women characters that often go overlooked because they tend to be written by women for women, or by people who actually like women or talk to women or know women. If you're looking for women with more realistic and multidimensional depictions in more ways than one, look no further than the adult women of seinen and josei. Now, don't get me wrong, there are also flawed depictions of women in these demographics as well, but you're also much more likely to find well-written, interesting women in these series than not, especially if they are the main characters of their series. An age group that explores the trials and tribulations of early adulthood with sincerity is through the lens of college-aged protagonists. Nestled between awkward teenage girls who struggled through high school and the alcoholic smartass older women who have been through it all is the naive college girls of anime and manga. What sets these girls apart from high school shoujo girls is the learning curve of responsibilities into adulthood that they often have to go through. Some of these characters attend college and work part-time jobs, like in the seinen manga A Side Character's Love Story, where part-timer Nobuko sees herself as just a side character with the help of an enigmatic coworker. She finds herself taking up a starring role in her own romance with fellow part-timer Irie. Or in Princess Jellyfish, which follows the plight of Tsukimi, a jellyfish-obsessed artist who feels stuck in place until she meets an enigmatic cross-dressing boy who turns her and her roommates' lives upside down. Technically a shoujo, but fits this theme to a T, is A Sign of Affection, and its popularity partly due to its focus on young adult college-aged characters. Similar shoujo series with adult characters include everyone's favorite, Nana, and the web series turned anime My Love Story with Yamada-kun. Or some women who may not go to college but are still young adults, sometimes in historical fiction, with series like My Happy Marriage, where a young Mio, used and abused by her family since the death of her mother, gets married off to a cold-hearted general only to find herself in a safe environment and relationship where she feels that she can finally thrive and use her badass abilities. There's also Emma, a series similar in style to like a Jane Austen or Emily Dickinson novel, which is a 19th century period drama about a maid who falls for a gentry where their worlds divided by class collide. And also Oku, which is an anthology series that explores the lives of women in power in a parallel world where women rule in Japanese history due to a disease that kills most of the male population. But where are the girl bosses at? Give me Sex and the City, but make it anime. Okay, I got you. Seeing adults struggle through the complexities of paying their bills on time and interacting with their coworkers and just becoming adults while also finding love or friendship or all the other normal things that we seek in our everyday lives. There's just something about that that really gets me. Sometimes these series are just rehashed versions of high school romances but with grown-ups, which I'm also a sucker for, I can't even lie. Like The Ice Guy and His Cool Female Colleague or My Senpai is Annoying, where the love is innocent and wholesome despite them being able to do whatever they want because they're grown. Or follow the trope of cute girls doing cute things, but aged up to work full-time jobs or be able to legally drink in some circumstances. Like Shirobako, that explores the struggle and joys of a group of girls who vowed in high school to work in animation, only to discover it's much more difficult and draining than they thought. Or Takunomi, which depicts various college girls who live in a dorm together and explore their histories with alcohol. But other times, workplace series explore aspects of womanhood that break open common stereotypes and themes. Take Tokyo Tarariba Girls, for example, a manga created by Princess Jellyfish mangaka Akiko Higashimura. Though it explores the love lives of three hardworking friends in their early to mid-30s, it is anything but a romance. The friends drink at a local izakaya while lamenting over their past mistakes and how society treats women while desperately trying to find love and feel appreciated at their careers. The situations the women get into for the sake of love and loneliness often lead them into toxic relationships and makes their mental health spiral. Though mostly a comedy, Tokyo Tarariba Girls is also a harsh look at the reality of chasing after romance as an adult. Couple that with the societal pressures to get married at a certain age and have children and maintain your career, and how all of these things can drive women to desperation. In a lighter series, Wotakoi Love is Hard for Otaku follows main characters Narumi and Hanako as they struggle to balance their professional and romantic lives while also being closeted otaku in contrasting ways. For Narumi, her obsession with manga and anime, particularly BL, has prevented her from having successful relationships, and she keeps the side of her hidden at work. While for Hanako, who loves to cosplay male characters in particular, though she is able to seamlessly blend into the workplace with her cool and mature persona, she struggles to feel loved and appreciated by her partner, Taro, because he's more obsessed with cute moe girls, and Hanako is literally the opposite of that in looks and personality. In another series that explores a woman being an adult nerd, Complex Age follows a 26-year-old Nagisa struggling to battle her everyday adult life with the idea that she is getting too old to cosplay, feeling that younger cosplayers are better at portraying her favorite characters than she is. Outside of traditional workplace and romance, there are series exploring the struggles of socially awkward women balancing their work with their responsibilities. For example, in Ikoku Nikki, a series that should be getting an anime adaptation sometime in 2025, it follows 35-year-old Makio, a novelist who ends up taking in her recently orphaned niece, Asa, after the death of her parents, Makio's sister. Makio struggles to communicate with Asa, who comes to love her strange, almost otherworldly aunt, and the two find ways of caring for each other. And what you get is a beautiful series that intentionally explores familial relationships between women from different generations and how they deal with grief and acceptance. Though this is a smaller part of the story, a similar relationship is explored in Skip and Loafer between Mitsumi and her aunt, Nao, who she lives with in Tokyo to attend school with. The added context of Nao being a trans woman is also explored in an honest and loving way, especially in the manga. On a lighter note, a cute comedy series and slice of life, The Masterful Cat is Depressed Again, shows the life of workaholic Saku, who struggles to take care of herself but ends up getting pampered by her overgrown cat that becomes her caretaker. Adult women coming into their own or learning something new about themselves, even several years or decades into adulthood, recontextualizing the idea that adults, particularly adult women in anime, manga, and stories in general, are not just set in their ways and can never change or be dynamic or grow, which I think is something we need to see more of and that is good to see of. But before you think well-crafted women are only found in romance or slice of life series, I also want to introduce you to some incredible thrillers led by adult women. Though more of a magical realism story than horror, the mysterious Yuko from Holic is a captivating woman who runs a magic shop where she provides goods and services across the Clamp multiverse, while also giving some much-needed advice to her younger teenage employee, Watanuki, as he navigates life in school. Of course, I also have to mention the infamous Perfect Blue, headed by Mima, as her mental health spirals due to the threat of a stalker, and how the industry as a whole exacerbates her inability to differentiate reality from her job. And in the manga thriller Burn the House Down, where 25-year-old Anzu becomes a housekeeper to get revenge on the woman who ruined her family's life, leading to a bitter psychological battle of revenge and retribution. As an adult woman who has grown up watching anime and manga and who still does these things despite whatever companies are trying to say about women outgrowing, animation and comics, because clearly I miss the memo. Womanhood in media is often an afterthought in especially anime and manga communities online. But with so many animators, mangaka, directors, creators, people online making content about women in anime and the impact of them in the industry, it's really about time we start talking about it more. And hopefully I was able to introduce you to more adult women characters beyond just what's popular, so that you can kind of find something that fits what you are looking for right now, whether that's escapism, whether that's something, or whether that's a character to relate to or feel seen by. I also didn't mean to turn the whole we need to talk about girls/women in anime into a series, but I kind of am loving it. So if you guys want to see more topics based on this topic, let me know. If you have any ideas for what you might want me to talk about in this topic, let me know in the comments. Thank you so much for watching this video. Check out another video where I break down more awesome women in anime, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.